Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, where each week I have a guest on, and I ask questions, and we get to know a little bit more about their perspective on movies. And I have here one of my other brothers, Tyler.
How you doing?
Not by blood, but basically brothers. So we're going to go with it. So I appreciate Tyler coming aboard, and obviously it's always fun to have these in person as well, so we're just not staring at Zoom. But yeah, so Tyler, I guess if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, anything you'd like to say?
Hi, I'm Tyler, and I guess the kind of movies that I like the most personally are horror movies.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
I've watched so many at this point, from the lowest budget you can ever imagine.
I have been watching some of those because I get screeners for them, and I really appreciate them, Alicia. Thank you.
And up to just trying to see the newest and supposedly scariest thing out there. Paranormal Activity was terrible.
I actually haven't seen any of those. I have seen all of the Conjuring-verse movies except for... I don't think I've seen the original Annabelle. I think that's the only one that I haven't actually seen. But by God, The Conjuring 2 terrify me. And I watched it in an old house at night in the attic apartment of my significant other at the time. And that was a terrible choice.
Did you have a Ouija board present?
No.
No. Were you really trying to tempt fate?
To quote Get Out, no.
Having watched so many horror movies, Shane just described how a good number of supernatural ones start.
It all started with that's how The Exorcist starts.
Yeah.
Had to start a trend, didn't you, The Exorcist? But to get to our questions here, so Tyler, what's your favorite film?
So, my favorite film, it's really hard to say. It depends on in the aspects of horror. It depends on what I'm feeling that day. Mm-hmm. Do I want to have that just pure oh my God, this makes me sick to my stomach, or do I want to be something funny, and because now horror comedy's a thing.
Evil Dead.
Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
Yes. That's right over there somewhere.
Yes.
I love that movie.
That movie does not get enough credit where it should be watched.
If you haven't seen Tucker and Dale, check it out. Alan Tudyk is just a national treasure, just in general. But if you ever want to see the revert, think Deliverance and think, what if all the city people were assholes and just made all these assumptions and things just happen to happen? And that's Tucker and Dale, more or less.
Dude, I almost want to put a fishing hat on right now and have a PBR. That movie is very, very much worth the watch. It's not going to be super scary.
It's so much fun, though.
It's just funny, and it's that's an aspect I gotta say with the new genre of horror that I like. It's the fact of poking fun at horror, with still giving some horror aspect.
Because this definitely this was did this come out before Cabin in the Woods? Cabin in the Woods was 2012.
This was after, I think.
This was 2010. So even before, well, actually, Cabin in the Woods was sitting on a shelf, wasn't it? Yeah. Because Chris Hemsworth was in that, and he was still
he was young.
He was still young at that point. Why the hell that and Red Dawn sit on a shelf for forever? But at that point, by the time Cabin in the Woods came out, he was an Avenger.
But you gotta admit, for Cabin in the Woods, when they casted the jock for Cabin in the Woods, you could not have picked a better actor than young Chris Hemsworth. The high and tight crew cut.
Yep. and this was still when Thor was not the most interesting of the Avengers, and he played that everybody played their type so well, because that's the whole fun of Cabin in the Woods is everybody's a stereotype, or at least you think they are.
Yeah.
And Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford are also two national treasures.
Especially in that movie. It's not going to be a spoiler, but I'm going to say a word that's just going to make him laugh uncontrollably. Mermen.
Mermen.
You gotta watch that movie for it.
And the memes too. Like, oh my god, the 2020 memes. Who had whatever for August or whatever for September? Thank you, Cabin in the Woods, because you helped us get through COVID.
Pretty much.
But like, I understand that it depends on like what you're feeling.
Yeah, if you're talking about a movie that like always rings true to me, and I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, this, that, because it's one of the iconic ones. Any of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, just because like, I saw that when I was young, whatever.
We're young.
Sure, my knees beg to differ. My joint.
Mine too.
But I wouldn't make it through a horror movie now. Just take me out. This running's not worth it. No, but just because like that movie was like so like suspenseful and thrilling, and I feel like a very key element in horror is that power dynamic. That's why I don't consider, like some people consider the Purge movies a horror movie. I don't really consider them horror movies. I've heard people call them horror movies. I consider that action.
I could see the first one, which was like a home invasion type thing, but especially the rest of them. Like, I literally just saw the Forever Purge yesterday. I'm like,
Don't ruin it.
No, I would not call that a horror movie. It was a thriller.
Yeah.
And like, it was a pretty effective one.
See,
but like, yeah.
The reason I wouldn't consider even the first Purge like a horror movie is because there's not that power dynamic. These people know this happens every year. These people were prepared for this to happen. These people had a Mossberg 500 saw, pump action, home defense shotgun, a Magnum 357, and other pistols that, ironically, because it was labeled as a horror movie, nobody else grabbed. We have the firepower. People are outside. Just get two. You're not on Weight Watchers. Jesus. People are trying to rip out your doors. Murder is legal.
We're not on a budget here. Like, it's obviously you have money. Make sure you're prepared for this.
But yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't really consider that, because there wasn't really that power dynamic. It was more of them trying to find the person they saved for a good chunk of the movie. It didn't really ramp up until the last little bit. And even then, it's like the guy was clearly prepared for this. One of the aspects I feel like is very crucial in horror is that power dynamic shift. Like, everyone always says, like, even you take, like a movie like Hostel shows that so well. Yeah, cringy.
God damn you, Eli Roth.
Yeah, Jesus, dude.
What's wrong with you?
And I travel a lot. I watched that before I went out of the country once. I was like, oh, God.
I hope you stayed at a hotel. Like a hotel.
Yeah. I was like, no. Still going to a stranger's bed.
And that'll be on the after show. We'll talk about that story.
But, no, it was, see, like, that's a clear power dynamic there.
Yes.
There is, you are, the thing that makes horror so thing is the aspect of helplessness.
Yes.
And that's what's, like, where, even if the person comes out on top at the end, on top, wait till the credits are done.
Well, that's even, like, if you think about, like, Predator.
Yeah.
Which, like, the first act of Predator is, like, your average 80s action movie with, like, every, like, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then, bam, they have no idea what they're doing. And it's terrifying because, like, these are, like, the most badass men on Earth, and they're just pawns.
Who are also extremely heavily armed.
Like,
the top guns of the time.
Like just look at Blaine. It's like, Blaine, you're bleeding. Ain't got time to bleed. And, like, but then, like, the Predator's like, just kidding. And just, like, destroys all of them. And it's terrifying because it's like, I can't imagine watching that in the 80s where you're just like,
oh, God.
Oh, look at all this. And, like, that's one of those movies where sometimes trailers can do you wrong and also going in with expectations. Because if you didn't know that was going in that direction, can you imagine?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Can you imagine watching that? Like, going in blind, watching The Predator, and just, you get to that point, it's like, what is happening?
Well, I think that's what's very important, especially with today's horror, is the dynamics changing. It's becoming less about the big scary monster and how about the big scary monster gets to you, or like realistic events. Like think about like when The Purge came out. There's a bunch of conflict going on everywhere.
Well, when you watch the Forever Purge, you're just like, is this next year?
Yeah, that's
and it's just like,
That's one of the reasons why I'm a bit like, do I really want to see it? Because like I'm just tired of all that kind of stuff. I don't go to the movies. That's one of the reasons why I watch horror movies so much. There's no politics. There's religion in them, obviously.
A lot of them. A lot of them. Because like if you believe in all that stuff, how terrifying is that when that stuff happens on screen?
But that's also another cool thing when you think about it, like with the religious aspect. Like even the way spirits and stuff are depicted, and the first thing that comes to my mind is The Forest. The one about the Japanese suicide forest.
Yes.
So in Western culture, you'll see a lot of us depicting like demonic possession or spirits. Our eyes will go black or white.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's always depicted, like eyes like rolled in the back of the head or pitch black eyes. If you actually watch the movie, like when they showed the spirit, it was a over-exaggerated mouth with slit cat eyes and sharp teeth, which if you look at like old Japanese paintings is very indicative of how they pictured evil spirits, yokai, and stuff like that.
It's very interesting, and it's just like watching like The Omen and The Exorcist, and if you're like, I believe in religion. I don't know how I feel about this right now. Like, this could happen. But, actually, we thoroughly answered one question and another, because I do ask what your favorite genre is, so we definitely talked about horror movies.
Overachiever.
And taking a step back, though, so, Tyler, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Oh, my earliest memory of going to the movies was, honestly, so every now and then, like, when I go down my camper, I know, another thing for horror movie people. Yeah, I used to stay in a camper in the woods.
Could have filmed one.
That's why I know how to survive. No. Yeah, don't wear high heels in the woods. Tip 1.
You can wear high heels and outrun a T-Rex. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thanks, Jurassic World.
No, but we used to go on the weekends just to go to the movies down there, and I think one that sticks out to me the most was when my parents, two instances. One, my younger one was, we went to go see the Pokemon movie. Which, if you didn't cry during the first Pokemon movie,
what's wrong with you?
You don't have a soul.
What's wrong with you?
Where's your heart?
Pika-pee.
And my other one was when my dad took me and my brother to see the movie. He took us to see Resident Evil.
Oh my.
I think it was Resident Evil Extinction.
Oh my.
And it was just like, I was really the only one who wanted to be there. I was like, yeah!
It's so interesting, like, when you watch those movies where you're like, you're definitely too young for this, but, like, watching The Godfather when you're 10, or, like, to be perfectly honest, I've been regularly watching James Bond movies since I was, like, 7 years old, and, like, you watch them now, I'm just like, this is a really unhealthy way of viewing things, like, but you know, it is.
I remember sneaking, me and my couple of friends, we snuck and we watched Child's Play. As young children who still played with action figures and stuff. You know how messed up in your head, like, is G.I. Joe going to come to life and kill me now? Jesus!
Oh, that just reminds me of Small Soldiers.
Yeah.
So much. That was such a fun movie. I bought that at a flea market, and it turned out to be a...
Oh, it's a great movie.
It turned out to be like a pirated copy. Because I'm like, I didn't know this was out on VHS yet, and I bought it at a flea market. What do you As a kid, I had no idea. As an adult, I'm like, no shit, you buy something at a flea market before it releases on, like, physical media, and of course it's going to be a counterfeit one.
Like, I actually got a question for you really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Like, you ever, like, speaking of, like, Child's Play, you ever watch a movie, like a horror movie when you were younger, that scared the bejesus out of you? But now when you're older, you're just, like, in your head, like, I would just yeet, punt, that doll across the lot, like every time.
It's funny because the two movies that scared the crap out of me as a kid was Lost World Jurassic Park,
okay.
because that opening scene with that little girl,
Yeah.
which Ethan pulled a prank on me. He told me we were watching Mouse Hunt. And then it started, I'm like, this doesn't seem like Mouse Hunt. And it was Lost World Jurassic Park, and it scared the hell out of me. And I couldn't watch the Brendan Fraser Mummy as a kid because like, I get scared real easy. Like, in general, I do get scared pretty easily, and that scared the crap out of me as a kid. I could watch that any day now because I absolutely love it. Brendan Fraser, I love him so much.
One of these days, we are going to have to, like, medicate you or something, but I'm having you watch some of my horror movies.
I remember I even bought Ethan House of a Thousand Corpses and stuff like that, and he couldn't even watch it.
I finished that, admittedly. I finished all of that. I finished all of them. Rob Zombie, I love his music. I do love his movies. But, God.
What a messed up individual. It's really funny because I thought of you earlier today. So I was watching the new Fear Street that came out on Netflix, and part 1 came out yesterday, and the younger brother character, this takes place in 1994, sitting on like one of those chat boards, like chatting away, like with like witch theories and stuff like that, and he's sitting there and like more human than human, and a bunch of white zombies just playing in the background. And I'm just like, this kid. And then Fear of the Dark by Iron Maiden started playing, so I'm like, this kid's my favorite.
Then it just come to your mind, this is what Tyler looked like when he was younger.
Yeah. Tyler totally was sitting on a chat board on a computer chatting away listening to metal music.
I had AIM. I had AIM and access to Slipknot.
Well, that's funny because Jess was like, AIM wasn't made in 1994. I'm like, I think it's just one of those like chat boards and stuff like that. Just like those open things where you just like meet random people.
Yeah.
So like, and people say the internet...
Which is already the way to start a horror movie.
And people say that the internet's scary today. Like, you can just go on and just meet so many random people.
Well, so many horror movies have been made about that recently. There's been so many of... And even the supernatural beginning. There's a movie out, Bedeviled.
I thought you were going bedazzled there.
Yeah, I know. That's how I thought I read it. Where basically the premise is the devil makes an app. Like Siri.
I saw... Whoa, crap. What the hell was it called? The one, like, the countdown or something or other that came out where it's like the countdown app and it tells you when you're going to die.
You have 42... It was like, wasn't it the chain letter one? Where it's like you have 42 hours to have somebody else do the ritual?
That's a different one.
Yeah.
This one is, like, you download this app and it tells you when you're going to die. And if you try to mess with it, it kills you before then. And it's just like, the main girl's like, you're going to die tomorrow. And it's just like, why would you open this? And like, yeah, the whole entire premise is her trying to stop from dying the next day.
Well, that's what people make so much fun about horror movies. Yo, man, I got this VHS. If you watch it, you die in 7 days. Why would you buy that? Why would you bring that here?
People are like...
Who has a VHS still?
That would work in real life because people would do crap like that.
Yeah, I know.
I know people who would do crap like that, so...
I'm not one of them because I've watched too many horror movies.
That's what happens when you watch too many movies. You're just like, I'm not going to fall for this shit.
Friend trying to play that Charlie game that was like that. I'm sitting there with holy water and salt just shaking them at him.
Like the new Candyman coming out. It's like, come on. Who would say that 3 times?
Where do you say that? Also, what context do you like? Who, like it's the Beetlejuice comp. Who was just like, yo, man, if you say this name 3 times, okay, what context am I gonna say this name 3 times? And also, what's the rules for Candyman? I forget the parts of the movie.
I haven't actually seen any of the original Candyman films, but I'm seeing this one because Jordan Peele produced it, and
enough said.
I'm like, if he thinks this is going to be a good time, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
so
I'll probably go there with you too.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And watching that and like the Bloody Mary thing, and then I love when South Park was like Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls. Oh, man. South Park. Now, we definitely already talked about your favorite genre, and I know you mentioned Rob Zombie, but do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
See, the problem I have with like picking a particular filmmaker, especially in the horror genre, it's so ever changing with like the aspects of it. Like you can like a lot of people in the horror, they love classic horror, but every now and then something has changed the dynamic, and it always becomes into a giant debate amongst people with like horror movies. It's like one just recently came out or I found it on Amazon that was such an original concept for the whole demon kind of movie that's been played out so much to the point of I'm not gonna ruin the ending, but spoilers alert for the first couple minutes of the movie. Basically, same kind of concept as what's happening right now. Guy has a YouTube channel, social media channel, whatever the universe at the time was calling it. Pretends to do exorcisms as a priest and all this stuff. Doesn't actually do any rituals. The most thing that he does is read verses from the Bible, which last time I checked, never really summoned anything. But demon shows up and literally gives the best line a demon could ever give for why he showed up. Whatever showed up. You mess with the bull, you fuck with the bull long enough, you get the horn. And you're like, oh God! He didn't even summon it. It took upon itself to put him in his place. Bring it on!
Was that on Shudder?
It was on Shudder. Actually, I pulled up the name of it because I wanted to, say the name of it.
Yeah, because if you're a horror fan and you haven't checked out Shudder, you're behind the curve here.
Yeah, really. Come
on. I just watched Anything for Jackson.
Ooh.
Did you see that one?
It's on my queue right now.
Satanists. Satan. Hail Satan! And I liked it a lot, and that creeped me the hell out. I watched Unholy recently. I wasn't the hugest fan of that.
Unholy felt too much. I liked it. I like the acting in it, I'll say it that way. I like the story.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Thumbs up.
Mr. Winchester.
Yep. The comedian.
The Cleansing Hour is what the movie was called.
Okay.
That was actually it was a very good. If you get a chance, I'd say watch it. I mean, it's at least original with the premise. Not everything's original. Come on, you can only go so far with Judeo-Christian demons. You can't.
Been there, done that.
You can't change it. If you want to see something different in the monster demonic thing, watch something international. Because frankly, I've watched it because another neat thing that you learn is like, you learn a lot about different other cultures. Like, demons and stuff in Western culture were basically the punishment of what you should and shouldn't do, which they actually made a horror movie about that involved the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, Shazam! It is from a horror director.
Yeah.
For the record, because Lights Out.
Yeah.
Lights Out creeped me the hell out. That opening sequence, I'm just like, nope. No thank you. I'm watching this in the middle of the day. All my lights on.
I mean, if you were, do you want to be honest? If you were a Russian gangster, like John Wick is a horror movie to you.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's how you, like, when a horror movie has like a creature or an entity or something, and you can achieve John Wick level of mythos in your movie, you've done right. Because every scene with Keanu's not even anywhere near it, and somebody just says his name and how everybody reacts in the room, that's how you needed to do it. Because, like, when the father, it's like, it was John Wick, he's like, oh. Like, that reaction, it's like, that's what it's like, oh crap, we're dealing with this. And
he was the big bad in those movies.
Yes. And it's so interesting, too, because, like, you mentioned with, like, horror taste has changed so much, and, like, obviously it's coming back around because Blumhouse is basically, like, you like the 80s and, like, the 70s.
Yeah.
Here you go. And you watch the new Halloween Kills trailer, and I'm like, I watched that trailer and I'm like, this has gone beyond horror movie. This is an action movie. This dude just killed like 10 firefighters within the first 2 seconds of this trailer.
Like I said, with horror, there has to be that power dynamic of, can they win? Like, I mean, reality, actually with horror movies, the one time you can honestly say in it, like, you don't know how it's going to end.
Well, that's a tricky thing, because, like, look at the original Halloween. How confident John Carpenter was to just be like, you end your movie with the bad guy gets shot out a window, and you're just like, oh, it's done, and you look down and the music just cues and he's gone. It's like, oh, wait, what? That's how this is ending? And it's just like, yep, come back for more, people.
One that really sticks out for me that was once again Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What was it? The remake? I forget what year it was. Was that the one Rob Zombie did?
I don't know if Rob Zombie did a Texas Chainsaw.
Did he do it? I thought he did a Texas Chainsaw.
I know he did 2 Halloween movies.
I know. I might be thinking of it because it was like put in the 70s.
I know Matthew McConaughey was in like an early like prequel or spin-off of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Spoiler. But the end of it is the girl got out of the house. She's driving the truck. And all of a sudden, Chainsaw comes right through the driver's seat of the truck and rips into her chest. She takes out the one cop in this small town.
The one
cop in this small town that nobody has noticed, the Cannibal family, with the 6'5" giant who wears animal skins on his face. Nobody's
Leatherface.
Dude, I get people staring at me if I'm like standing on a street corner for too long. Nobody's noticing this family here. Like,
they were in on it. They were hiding this.
I would be too if that was my town. No, but yeah, like you think she's gonna win. There's cops there. I mean, horror veterans knew like she's dying in about 30 seconds. But if you're like first time horror, you're like, oh my god, the final girl syndrome. She got it. She's gonna win. Which a lot of times like it does pan out like that where they do win.
Gotta shake it up sometimes, or you just feel like you're watching the same thing over and over again. And that's an interesting thing, too, before we move on to the next question, is, like, John Carpenter has some great horror thrillers.
Yeah.
He did other stuff, too, like Big Trouble in Little China and Escape from New York, which I love both of them. But then, like, the 90s weren't exactly the nicest John Carpenter, and he kind of just, like, faded away.
Yeah.
Wes Craven had to completely change the game because, like, after a while, could only do so many Nightmare on Elm Street, and then he did Scream. And that was like, you know what we can do? We could scare them and make fun of these movies.
Yes.
And
actually, the one thing I just want to touch on, then we can go on the next question. Yeah. Exactly what you said there. Nightmare on Elm Street. Everyone thinks like Cabin in the Woods and Tucker and Dale vs. Evil were the first horror comedy.
Oh,
if you really rewatch like Nightmare on Elm Street, those little one-liners that he's putting out that entire time, you're just like, you want to be like, oh, but then you hear him say something, and you're like.
It's like, I don't want to laugh right now, but that was actually really funny. But that's a big thing.
It makes you look like a crazy person when you're watching movies with your family where somebody has a claw coming through their chest and you just go, what, he said something funny!
Now, Tyler, do you have any particular favorite actors or actresses?
Ooh, that's actually a really hard one. I mean, honestly, I gotta say it. Keanu Reeves. Not even really horror.
Well, at this
Keanu
point,
Reeves does have a horror movie.
Knock Knock.
Yeah, Knock Knock, the one with the 2 girls and everything. Which,
well, I guess Constantine was supposed to kind of be like a horror movie.
Once again, that goes to that whole.
Like, if it's done like it probably should have been.
Maybe
horror. Question.
Maybe a horror movie to like Mormons.
But Keanu and the resurgence he has had.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, you just did great, bud. Always loved you.
We love you, Keanu, and he's such a nice guy too.
Oh, great person.
Such a wonderful human being, and like it's so funny because like do you know what's the first thing I saw Keanu Reeves in? The '80s made-for-TV Babes in Toyland.
Oh god.
I loved that as a kid. It had Drew Barrymore in it. It had Keanu Reeves in it. And then, of course, you have Bill and Ted. And
my first experience of Keanu, and I don't care what anyone says, it's still one of the funniest movies.
Bill and Ted's so great. And then like early 90s happened and you got like Speed and Point Break. I am an FBI agent! And then of course The Matrix happened.
Yeah.
And like Keanu Reeves went to a whole other level. And then there was a long time there where like he was just kind of like, he's a recognizable enough name, so let's put him in some things. And then Lionsgate made a movie called John Wick.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh my god, he's a badass. And the craziest thing is he can do that stuff for real.
Yeah, I follow Terran Tactical, the people who basically supplied a lot of the firearms for that movie. And they train a lot of the actors nowadays. You can actually see videos of them training. You should see... First off, the guy that is like the big guy at like Terran Tactical, he can do like I think I saw a video the other day where he did like a quick draw run in 4 seconds flat, where he shot like I think 6 targets with a pistol at 25 yards or something like that. He was just like, and you know the thing is, you see these actors that go in there and they have them firing real live ammunition, and Keanu Reeves, I saw him doing their little quick thing, and I'm just like, if acting doesn't work out, you got a future in 3 Gun, my friend. Jesus, the transitions, he was smooth. All the people there, I've seen the interviews with them. They say he's respectful, he's dedicated. He's the person you want to train for something like that.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, a lot of people are just like, they think acting is like reading your lines.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of it. And there's certain actors that like, you could give them anything to say, and they'll make it work.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is not that kind of person.
No, Keanu...
like, with bad material, it's really awkward. But, from a physical acting standpoint, there's not many people who can legitimately do those things.
Yeah.
And props to him and people like Tom Cruise, who he's gonna die making a movie someday. I'm 100% sure Tom Cruise is gonna die making a movie at some point.
One of my favorite shows, TV shows on the History Channel, Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
They trained like that. I've seen videos of the actress, I can't forget her name, who plays Lagatha. She is like doing that stuff. I mean, she had the one during the couple scenes, I never noticed it then, she had a limp. It wasn't a fake limp. She actually sprained her ankle, and she was hurt during the shooting. And it's like, you're like, oh my god, and she's still walking around these terrained areas filming in, like, leather.
Commitment. And, like, Keanu has such a wonderful personality, too, and can make, like, in the same year, you have John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum, Toy Story 4, Duke, Kaboom, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And he played himself in Always Be My Maybe. Have you seen that on Netflix? It's a rom-com.
I'm probably going to watch it now.
And the main actress, is it Ali Wong? I think it was Ali Wong.
Netflix
but
has been messing up for me.
We could go on a whole entire thing about the quality of Netflix material.
I'm a horror movie guy, and Netflix is not suggesting any horror for me. I don't...
What's wrong with you? Easy.
I'm really the demographic. I shouldn't have to type horror into the search bar.
But he shows up as her date, as himself. And, like, she starts dating Keanu Reeves in the movie.
I would have swooned.
And one of my favorite things the internet did was, like, he enters to Sail by AWOL Nation, and they took so many songs on the internet and put them into that scene of him walking in and everybody being, like, staring at him come in. Just great. And we're getting John Wick and Matrix 4, so within the next year or so we're in a good place with Keanu. Now, Tyler, what's a movie you could literally watch any day?
Ooh, yeah, that's not that hard. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil.
Yet again,
shameless
plugs to go buy this movie or find this movie wherever it's streaming or on right now.
National treasure right there. You can't see it there. National treasure. That man.
Oh my god.
And I was a fan of Firefly.
Yes.
And he would
Wash.
It was just. And then Serenity.
Gonna pour one out for
Which
Wash.
people actually could consider even towards the end of it, the ending of Serenity a horror movie.
The ending of that movie is terrifying.
That
when they
was.
have all of the whatchamacall them, I wanted to say Ravengers, but that's Guardians of the Galaxy. But when all those like weird, demented, like twisted, like humanoid things come in and like, oh, and River though.
They were just ravers, by the way.
Yes,
ravers.
That was it. I was close.
I was a hardcore fan of that genre. Space cowboys. I mean, yeah.
Cowboy Bebop, Firefly.
Not the movie Space Cowboys. People get so confused when I say that.
I love Space Cowboys, but obviously that's a Clint Eastwood movie about like geriatric astronauts,
which we're all okay with. I would pay to see that in real life.
That is a movie I could just throw up. Like watching, well, at least the first hour of it. Yeah. Like before they go, like when they get up in the space,
when it's all jokes and funniness.
Yeah. It pulls an Armageddon basically. Like the first half of the movie is so much fun,
much like Firefly.
Yeah, and then it gets serious. But like just watching Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, and James Gardner just being their characters is so much fun. And let's be real, here it was just Clint.
Yeah, but definitely Tucker and Dale, just because it's got the funnies for me. It gives me a little bit of horror, like because I watched, and to be honest with you, I'm not knocking any series or anything like that. I'm not trying to throw shade or anything, but horror directors or whatever, please stop running some things into the ground. We don't need. Although the new remake for Wrong Turn was very good. Do check that out. Kind of more thriller, but
there's
no camp.
There's a few directors out there that I'm just like, if they're directing it, I'm 100% excited to see this horror movie. Mike Flanagan's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like sometimes the sad thing with like horror nowadays, a lot of the movies, it's just like stamp slip, not even reading it, and they see the title. Like case in point, I guess the most. Once again, not throwing shade, but the most atrocious one of just, let's pump these out. It's got the title. Wrong Turn. Look, I like the first one. I like the second one. But
how many wrong turns can you make?
I'm sorry, when you had basically Wrong Turn...
Get a map.
When you had Wrong Turn, I forget it was like 4, 5, 6, a Snow Day edition, like, come on.
Was it Wrong Turns? The wrongest turn? You just gotta start doing what Fast and Furious does.
Yeah.
And just doing stupid shit with your titles. Also a movie franchise that is just like... The F9...
Please stop!
F9 jumped a shark so many different ways.
Didn't this series used to be about cars? What's going on?
Oh, man. And as somebody who... So I've seen Too Fast, Too Furious, Tokyo Drift... Fate of the Furious, and F9.
I have them all, except for F9. I have, I think, up till 7 in the metal collector's edition.
Yep.
Just because of the first 3 movies, I love cars. I love JDMs and everything.
Here's the thing. I watched Too Fast, Too Furious, and Tokyo Drift with Ethan, like, years ago. And I'm like, okay, they're fine. Like,
I burnt the DVDs.
I was never the biggest... Like, I'm not the biggest car person. And, like, obviously, they used to be about cars. Like, the first 3 of them, at least, were about cars. And then I saw Fate of the Furious was the next one I saw. So, like, mind you, I didn't see Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast 6, Furious 7, was it? Yeah. It's hard to keep track of whatever naming conventions they
insert do. Insert Fast/Furious plus a number. Or Hobbs and Shaw.
Well, that's the thing. I watched Fate of the Furious. I'm like, you know what? My favorite parts of this movie are Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham.
Yeah.
I would love to watch a movie with just 2 of them in it.
Oh, I fully agree.
Then they made Hobbs and Shaw. I'm like, yep. I took my mom to see that.
I haven't seen it yet, but I love those 2 actors.
That's somewhere right back there, because that's the only one I own. I'm like, it's so much fun. It knows it's an over the top action movie, and it knows what it's supposed to be.
But like that makes sense in the Fast and the Furious franchise. It's Fast and the Furious, small letters, Hobbs and Shaw. Like, okay, we know there's not going to be really that many cars.
Fast and Furious presents basically The Rock and Jason Statham.
Pretty much. Like, they knew what that thing was. Like, they knew it was, like, it's going to be less about cars, more about action and, like,
yes.
BMWs, Mercedes.
And my mom wanted to see it. She loves her Jason Statham. And, like, I took my mom to see it.
So that's my mom, too. What is with moms and that particular actor?
My mom has a thing for, like, bald action guys. My mom loves Bruce Willis. She loves Jason Statham.
We used to watch Transporter a lot.
Yeah, and that, too. I watched The Italian Job so much, like with Handsome Rob, and like Seth Green doing his Jason Statham impression was hilarious.
God.
There's some great things about that movie.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's probably not one of them. Like, Mark Wahlberg, for me at least...
How's your mother?
Like, The Departed. Great!
Yeah.
Like, he was perfect in that. The other guys... Love him in that.
What was the one with him and oh god, I'm blanking on the name. It was the movie where he like shot the chickens.
Shot the chickens?
Forget the damn name of the movie.
Like, is this a serious movie?
It was like kind of like an action comedy kind of thing.
And they
Man
blew
on
up.
Fire. Man on Fire. Who was the actor in Man on
Fire? Well, was it Two Guns with him and Denzel?
There you go, thank you.
Yeah.
I blanked on the name. How do I blank on that name?
Contraband.
Yeah.
All of your Mark Wahlberg action movies. Four Brothers, like before that.
Four Brothers was an amazing
that's a
movie.
Different movie. And then now you get Mark Wahlberg doing shit like Infinity and Spencer Confidential. Ted, I actually think he's really funny in.
Oh, he's amazing in Ted.
Him and Ted are great together. And, like, his chemistry does not beat him and Will Ferrell and the other guys. Because, like, oh my god, they're perfect for each other.
That awkward moment when you're having family dinner and then Ted comes on the TV. And
have you ever had sex with a Bastin girl? It's like, oh, Hanna. Hanna.
I saw my grandmother laugh so hard at that movie.
Oh my.
I felt some type of way.
Now, there's probably a lot of things that you might be able to pick here, but what's a film that connects closely to another interest of yours that you love?
So, once again, that's kind of a lot of the horror genre. I love, like, history, and I like learning about other religions and stuff like that, and that's a big aspect of horror, especially when you look at a lot of the movies, like... You think about, like, werewolves and vampires, everyone thinks, like, oh, werewolves and vampires. They don't understand that that was actually tied to, jeez, now I'm blanking again. Whew. That was tied to, Europe and stuff back then with Dracula.
Well, if you really want to learn about the history of vampires and werewolves, you should totally watch the 2004 Van Helsing movie. Get all the mythology you need.
I would headbutt you on camera. But like if you look back to like Transylvania and stuff like that, I mean like you know,
like Vlad the Impaler was like an actual dude
and
that like impaled people.
And you don't understand like the reason why it was like the whole blood sucking thing came from that was when people were impaled. This is gonna sound like a horror movie right off the bat. When he impaled people, he would supposedly take a piece of bread, dip it in there, and then eat it. That's where that whole aspect of blood sucking and stuff comes from. And they actually made a movie about it. I think they called it Dracula, but it had nothing to do with vampires. They made a movie about Vlad the Impaler that actually involved like the whole history, like the Ottoman Empire. What
was that? Dracula Untold, or is that a different thing that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, there wasn't really
because I know he turned into like a vampire.
That was like the very end. That was like the little wink, like hey. Dracula! But it had nothing to do with vampires or anything like that.
One of my favorite renditions of Dracula, or Vlad, is in What We Do in the Shadows. Jermaine Clement's just like, I used to impale them.
That show made me so happy.
Season 3 coming back.
It is?
End of August? I keep getting that and the Archer Season 12 release dates mixed up.
Still never seen Archer.
Oh, you would love Archer.
Probably.
Ethan finally watched it and absolutely loved it. I'm like, I knew you would.
I'm that guy. I've never seen Breaking Bad. I've never seen Sons of Anarchy. I've never seen Archer.
I've never seen Sons of Anarchy, but I've seen all of Breaking Bad. I love Better Call Saul. That show is my shit.
Never seen that yet.
I'm
busy watching horror movies.
What We Do in the Shadows, I think, comes back early September.
Cool.
I'm so excited.
But like that's the thing. But that's going back to your question.
Yeah.
We can go off on tangents constantly, especially with me. But no, that's why I love you. Learn to learn different aspects about different cultures and stuff like that with like horror movies and stuff like that. And then like the other thing, like the aspects of horror movies that just gets me so much is like it really does make you look at yourself in so many things. Like like when people are like. Like you think about like watching like a movie like Hostel or something, it gives you that like that chill, like oh my god. Mind you, don't ever watch Hostel before you leave the country.
You'll never leave the country.
I did it. It was a mistake. All right, I was paranoid of anyone. Like I'm at the airport and still in the U.S. Somebody walks up to me. I'm like, yeah! Get away!
Like Hostel's like. It's the most demented version of what happened on the other end of Taken. Like when you're taken, what are all the horrible possible things that could happen?
Times that by 100 because...
And then you don't have Liam Neeson to come save you at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that movie, there's not a power dynamic struggle at all in that the people in there are helpless. It is basically a snuff film. It really is. There's no...
Eli Roth is a very interesting dude.
And they made 3 of them. They made 3 of them.
Like, to be honest, there's certain horror films that I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I'm not, like, any kind of stuff like that. I also don't like Saw. Like,
I get Hostel. Saw, once again, Saw doesn't register as a horror movie to me. That's a crime movie. Well, there's a clear way to win. Yes, it sucks, but there's a clear way to win.
You can do it. And you know what's so messed up? Do you know where they got the idea for Saw from?
No, where?
Mad Max.
Huh.
Because it's an Australian-made film, James Wan.
I didn't know that, actually.
The very end of the first Mad Max movie, when he handcuffs the guy's ankle to his car and tells him, you could cut through the chains in 10 minutes or you could hacksaw through your ankle in 5. And it's just like, that's where they got. I'm like, what if we a whole movie of people having to do stuff like that?
But this again goes back to the same thing. They kept making them.
Like, I saw Spiral. I actually saw that with Ethan and Kristen at
was
the
it
drive-in.
any good? I'll be honest, I wasn't even interested. Like
the only reason I was interested was because of Chris Rock, to be perfectly honest, and Samuel L. Jackson. And surprise, surprise, he's in it for like 5 minutes. I'm like,
yeah, they made 2 movies revolving around the cops alone.
This movie is lacking Samuel L. Jackson. I came for Samuel L. Jackson. But, like, it is very much a detective movie. And it still had, like, I was least interested when they started doing the really obnoxious Saw stuff. Also, fun fact, the first victim in the movie is McMurray from Letterkenny.
Huh.
I was sitting watching the movie and Ethan's just like, that's McMurray. I'm like, is it?
You don't say it now, do you? There we go. No, but see, this is where You go first.
Just say hello. Nice to see you, Wayne.
Love that show so much. No, but this is where I try to make the distinction, especially horror movies.
Yep.
Especially talking about what we were just talking about the genre wise.
Yep.
There's a difference between slasher and horror. Okay, like
I learned that distinction because I just assumed Ethan loved horror movies. He loves slasher movies. Like he loves all of the Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th kind of thing.
That can still be brought into horror because there's a supernatural aspect and the power dynamic. If you shoot somebody in the chest with a .357 Magnum from a second-story window...
And they keep coming? There's something wrong here.
There's some other worldly crap in there, because I don't...
But that was interesting, because, like, you know what movie I recommended to Ethan? Midsommar.
Okay.
Ethan's like, that was what the F was that? That was the worst effing thing I've seen in my whole entire life. And that's the thing. Be prepared if you jump into an A24 horror movie.
Yeah.
Because they're not there to, like, play conventions of what you expect with things. They're there to disturb you to the core.
And I feel like that's what Rob Zombie does sometimes. Think about Rob Zombie's horror movie. You've only seen one. I can tell you. there are some scenes in there that are just like, they really do like, it takes you out of the movie. It gets so bad sometimes it actually takes you out of the movie experience because they bring such a real world horror thing in there. Trigger warning people. Rape, which is very prevalent in that actually, even in 31, there was a sex doll laid over a girl tied to a board with barbed wire.
My thing is, when you're a filmmaker, you have to leave some things to the imagination to build suspense and tension. Like, when you just go that far, you're just like, at that point, it's just gratuitous. And I didn't need this in my life. And you could have alluded to this, and it would have been terrifying enough. And, yeah, that's my piece of it.
I get what he's saying, and this is really scary, like, to think about it, but, like, the way he worked it into the movies, it's not, like, just, like, slapped in your face out of nowhere. It is obviously implied from the beginning. Think about House of a Thousand Corpses, the enter. What was it, 5 kidnapped cheerleaders? And then you pan to this, like, old dude's house. Like, you knew right there. Like, that was implied in the first place. And they did imply it in the first movie. But the other movies, they were just like, ha! Here it is!
Well, and not to get too much into the movie, but something like Don't Breathe.
Oh.
Like, you find out some things later that are heavily implied and might potentially happen. And you're just like, oh my! This is going some places.
Are they making a sequel?
Yeah, it is. They just released a trailer.
I just saw the trailer today.
The trailer just played before Forever Purge. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I did not expect the sequel to go where this movie's going.
That he's the good guy.
Right? And I'm like, wait a minute.
Who's the child?
Well, I think we're going to have to find out when we see the movie. Because I think that's going to be something messed up. Because
that has to be something messed up. Because I don't remember being a child in the first movie.
Well, I don't know what the time jump is, and if that child came where I think it came from,
oh god,
I'm a little uneasy watching that movie.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. Jesus.
But like, warning: if you're gonna look into an A24 horror movie, don't watch the trailer and think that's what you're gonna get because they do horrible trailers. Because basically, their marketing department's like, we need to sell these as like traditional horror movies. That's not what you're getting into. No. Hereditary destroys you emotionally for 2/3 of the movie, just with regular human drama. And then when you're so weak, then they're like, hey, what if we did this to you? And you're just like, I can't handle this. Like, I'm done. You have me, and this is stop.
I think the messed up part about everything you just said is, like, the people like me who love horror movies, we watch these movies, and we know everything you say, we accept everything, and just like, yes sir, may I have another? You're like, oh my god, I feel assaulted, may I have another please? We pay for this.
Like, even Midsommar, the first 10 minutes of that movie, you're just like,
You know what movie bummed me out? Green Inferno.
God, Eli Roth.
I'm sorry, it didn't hold up to me.
I've never watched it. I only know by reputation.
It's not hard.
My favorite Eli Roth film is The House with the Clock in its Walls. I'll take Jack Black any day. Which, that even, like, as you get into the third act of that movie, that stops being a kid's movie. Because you're just like, oh, there's Eli Roth. It's like, this is getting disturbing.
Oh, God.
Now, Tyler, who's a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
John Wick, no. I wish. I wish. If somebody wants to send me to the Terran Tactical Training Course.
Tyler's just like, John Wick, will you mentor me?
Please.
Please, I'll do it.
Teach
I'll do anything.
I will do whatever I have to do. I will remake Bill and Ted.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
No, I mean, movie character I relate to. I guess the guy, it's going to be a general statement. The guy who in the horror movie just goes, nope. Because I've watched too many of them. I'm just like, I see, like, if your friends...
So are you Jamie Kennedy from Scream, where you're just like, this is exactly what's going to happen next?
Kind of. You're at a party, your friend pulls out a Ouija board, you just politely,
goodbye.
Where are you going? Nope.
And then they come to you later in the movie and you're just like, what are you doing here? I told you this was not a good idea.
This exact seated position for me. My feet, you can't see my feet all the way out across, just...
Your Uncle Joey sitting there like, hell yeah. I told you it was going to happen.
What did you expect?
Oh. That's one thing that really bothered me in Scream 2. Is that, like, Jamie Kennedy's character really fell for it. Yeah. Eventually, I'm like, come on! He's supposed to be the one that sees all this coming. Like...
But that's the nice little wink to horror movie people. Like, you don't know, you think you could survive? Because I've heard so many of my friends that are on the horror movies, dude, I never let this happen, really? Really, you would never randomly let some guy, literally quoting the House of a Thousand Corpses, you're never going to let some guy in a buffalo costume hiding out in the woods shoot your tire out on the back roads? How do you prevent that?
I'm too nice of a person. I would totally get caught up in something.
You're too polite. That's your problem. You got to live like I do. Somebody pulls out tarot cards, Ouija board, and stuff like that. You go, oh no,
that I'm out. Like I'm outsies. Like if somebody pulls that out at a party, I'm like, I'm gonna go home and watch a movie about this.
I still love that one meme of the throw rug Ouija board. It's like, I would love to buy this for my house, but I'm afraid my Roomba's going to summon a demon.
Well, because they're demons already, so they probably would. Yeah. Stupid Roombas. Tyler, what's a movie that you love that you think would surprise people?
Actually, genuinely, the movie that I just kind of shamelessly plugged, even though I have no relation to it at all, that was just, I watched it, and it just struck me as something so decent that and you know something, especially somebody who's like into horror, so many movies nowadays, it's so hard to keep your attention. Mm-hmm. This movie actually kept my attention the entire way through with no breaks. Like, especially when we're watching like the same repeat and repeat and repeat or something. And that's one of the things I'm having trouble with right now, so I don't have access to his channel. I'm sorry, you probably get blown up with comments. Anyone has any good suggestions for some new supernatural horror, comment down below.
Have you seen Suspiria?
But it's like, I need something. And you know something, I do like found footage, too. Just because, like, you know something, it was the best thing to happen to low-budget horror. Because shaky cam's acceptable. But I
have some feelings about that.
But the movie, I would have to say, is, it's the Cleansing Hour. It was, let's put it this way, because it, like, renewed, it just gave me, after seeing so many terrible horror movies, especially with the supernatural basis. Once again, one of my all-time low-end movies that I was excited for, but let me down so hard, was Paranormal Activity. I paid like $40 after popcorn and everything. And
welcome to the movies.
And even more, like, because it was a date. Supposed to be a scary movie, and I had a girl that kind of didn't like scary movies, but she was game for it, and I paid like $40 for this date, and I was more excited for the movie than the date. But
movies are not great dates.
Just to see some static on the screen and hear, and then watch this happen. No. It was supposed to be like a scary, like, ghost movie, original, like...
What actually happened was it's just a cat, the whole movie.
Pretty much.
It's just like, the cat just, like, pushes your things off the table.
I just pushed my phone off the table. But no, basically, the premise of that movie is just like, you know something? If a book falls off your shelf, basically that was the premise for Paranormal Activity for me. Oh my god, it's a ghost! No, dude, it's an open window. Even though, yeah, there was a ghost or a demon in that movie. I forget. It really left no impact on me besides, like, I wasted money.
You know what got me last year was The Invisible Man. And those kinds of things work so much better in that movie.
Yeah.
You're just like, that legitimately terrified me. Sitting in the theater, I'm like, oh god, what's going to come next? I don't even know. I'm not ready for this. And I was just sitting there in the theater with my friend Haley just being like... And, like, her... what was was it? Her pulling the sheet and it just stopped on the corner on the floor. I'm just like, no.
I will say something cool about Paranormal Activity though. They did do like the Xbox Kinect thing, where like you got to see the laser beams broken, so you're like, oh god, something is there. This isn't just them being crazy.
But yeah, stuff like that. Oh man, because you saw The Invisible. Did you see The Invisible?
Yes, I saw The Invisible Man.
The restaurant.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere, and I'm not going to ruin it, but you should go see that. And that's from the director. Well, not the director of the first Saw. It's from Lee Wannell, who's in Saw. He's the small, whiny guy. That's not Cary Elwes.
Like, yeah, just something, like, it's really hard to say, like, some things like that, because sometimes, like, something takes you out of a movie. Like I said, some of those, like, thriller horror movies where there's, like, a slasher, when they put in, like, that element of, like, sexual assault or something, it takes me right out of the experience. I get extremely uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Goodbye.
Yeah, thanks. Like,
Turn you off.
That was too much over my threshold. Like, I that's why, like I said, like, supernatural stuff. I don't want too much. It's fine to have a little bit of real in your horror movie, but can we not snap me to reality too much?
Well, and there's probably not going to be sexual assault in a supernatural horror movie unless it's Rosemary's Baby.
Or a scary movie.
or This Is the End.
Oh my god!
Which, I saw that with Ethan. I thought he was going to pee himself in the theater.
Oh, that was so...
And I knew what was going on because I had seen Rosemary's Baby, and I'm like,
oh god,
this is really happening. I'm like, that was a perfect homage. Look at that.
Oh god.
Now, my last question for you, Tyler, is, what do you love most about movies?
I mean, once again, if you take the aspect, like I said, don't take me out of the experience. I just like the fact of, I don't know, it's just something interesting. Like, I love action movies for the pure sake of action and stuff. I mean, like, yeah. But, like, horror movies get me because, like, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like, it's that bone-chilling little thing. It's like that, at this point, it's really hard for me to find a horror movie that actually scares me, but it's more like learning the lore behind some of these movies. Like, when you look about so many things like vampires and werewolves and stuff like that, there's so much lore and I always say that because, like, those are, like, the iconic horror monsters of the back in the day. And then Twilight happened.
Lon Chaney Jr.
And then Twilight happened and they became no longer scary, just glittery. Glorified strippers. I glow in the sunlight. You're supposed to burst into flames.
I saw Blade.
Yeah. Get Wesley Snipes in here. Take this out. But no,
I would have seen that Twilight sequel.
Yes.
If Wesley Snipes showed up.
Although Blade Trinity, Ryan Reynolds, oh my god.
Well, they totally were trying to set up a spin-off movie with him and Jessica Biel, and Trinity didn't do so well because Trinity didn't turn out so well because Wesley Snipes didn't want to leave his trailer.
Yeah.
He was smoking weed every day and not wanting to go to set, and then got mad that they gave Ryan Reynolds more lines, but they gave him more lines because Wesley Snipes didn't show up to set.
When you watch Trinity, you'll understand why Ryan Reynolds got Deadpool.
Yes.
So much.
Hannibal is so great. Just that.
Just his intro, hello, my name is fuck you. Oh my god. No, but it's just like a neat little, like, experience and the lore behind a lot of these things. Like, I mean, when you think about some of these, like, supernatural movies or even, like, the monster movies, there's rules. There are rules that, like, you don't even think about. Like, everyone knows, like vampires, like sunlight bad and stuff like that, or silver for werewolves. Yeah, but like you think about it like this, like, and it just like it takes you into experience. Like, these people are so panicked right now they can't remember the basic rules of things. Like, okay, crazy monster outside, or crazy guy with a big steak knife, or doll for some reason I'm afraid of that I could easily yeet off of the roof.
Yeah, but he's a serial killer.
Okay, he's got a steak knife. He stabs me in the leg. I pull his head off. There are kids out there there were kids back in the 80s that were strapping M80s to their sisters' Barbies, okay? Chucky was not a threat. Those kids were.
Wait, you mean Toy Story?
Pretty much.
Sid!
Forget Alien vs. Predator. I want to see Chucky vs. Children of the Corn.
Chucky versus Sid from Toy Story?
Yes! Make the movie.
What was interesting with the new Child's Play was that you could actually control technology.
Well,
that's terrifying because I'm a robophobe. So
well, that's what I was talking about earlier. Is a lot of the horror genre really quick is just before this is they're getting away from the summoning the old school way kind of crap. They're getting more into getting you through what everyone is always has on their phone. I mean, if the devil made Candy Crush, you never know it. Candy Crush killed plenty of people's social lives.
You know what's so funny and relevant about that statement you just made? You more or less just explained the plot of the Boss Baby Family Business. Because that is legitimately the villain's plan, is to get people through apps.
But that's so true. They literally made a movie, The Bedeviled, I think it was called.
And that I don't think it was called Final Countdown. I think it was just called Countdown.
Yeah.
And it's just people would open that app when am I gonna die? Well, now you're going to because you're an idiot.
People ate Tide Pods because they saw people do it on YouTube. And on any other social media platform, people did this. You don't think that's what's scary when you really think about these technological horror movies. People will do this just to see if it's real. And then you got people like me and him and my fiance. And it's like this. We see that nope.
Goodbye.
If my GPS isn't working on a back roads, I'm not going down that back road. I'm going back the way I came. I'm not going to keep going somewhere I don't know where I am. But, no, I mean, just movies give you an experience and you learn some, lore and everything behind that. And just, sometimes you just get something really original that's just can't beat it. I mean, even newer, older. But you think about, some things, the cliche, you can learn some things for, real life skills. If somebody breaks into your house, don't run upstairs. Don't run to the second floor. Don't go to the basement with no windows. Don't go to the basement if you can't fit out the window. Actually happened in a horror movie. I forget which one, but the fat guy got stuck. He survived, though.
Basically, you gotta listen to all the rules from Zombieland.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. Cardio. Gotta work on cardio.
An action horror movie, which zombies no longer kind of are horror because they've just been so
overdone.
Joked about, popularized, but there are rules. Don't break the rules, kids. Ouija boards are bad.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Now, Tyler, how I wrap up my show is my guest gets to ask me a question.
Ooh.
So what question would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
I would say, what do you think is the most, because I've talked about it a couple times, my perspective on it at least, what is the most important aspect of a horror movie?
It needs to make you feel either terrified or unnerved. Because, it depends on the movie. So, you could watch The Shining.
Yeah.
And, there's a couple of, jump scares. Well, I think one's literally a jump scare. A jump out from behind something kind of scare. But, there's just something about that movie from start to finish that just makes you feel unnerved. And you're just something's not right. I don't feel right. The music is so creepy. Jack Nicholson, just from the very start, even just being being Jack Nicholson, and you're just this man's not right. Don't leave him alone with his wife and child. And, his child just being hello.
Oh, yeah, that was...
Hello, Danny. And it's just no. Something like that. Or The Thing, which is... That whole entire movie's paranoia. The whole entire thing is who's an alien, who's not, I don't know, and like you can have like the blood test scene that just is one of the best crafted suspense scenes, and those are my two favorites. And then like some other things could just scare the living daylights out of you. Like there's one, like I love Haunting a Hill House. Like there's one jump scare in I think the second to last episode or the last episode having to do with a car that scared the living daylights out of me. And you could also do things which I love about Mike Flanagan is deep focus. Because everything in the frame is utilized. There's one particular scene in Haunting a Hill House. They're in a funeral home. And it's just a big wide shot. And after a while I'm sitting there like, why is there an extra person standing in the back there? And it just kind of like sunk in, and you're just like, no.
Dude, I just...
No!
It's really creepy, the fact that you just said that. I just flinched because I look out the window and I see a cat sitting on the ledge, and I thought somebody in a white mask was just staring at us. I thought we were going to be in Strangers for a second.
Yeah, there's a cat that sits across the way all the time. Damn cat.
I was genuinely about to yell down to Brittany! It's time! All of our training's paid off.
But, like, anything that could do that for you. And, like, I watched The Babadook in the middle of the afternoon with all of my windows open, with all my lights on, and that still chilled me to the bone, and I curled up in a ball on the couch. And that's a whole other different kind of thing, because that's just, like, pure depression. Embodied into, apparently, a LGBTQ plus now icon, because apparently the Babadook's turned into some kind of icon, and I'm just like, how and why? But watching that movie was terrifying, and the Conjuring movies, like they always hit me, and like I remember one scene, and this will probably be the last example I give, during Conjuring 2, you have the nun, who, kudos to that actress, who definitely gets a lot of work, because she was great. And you know what's exactly going to happen. And when Vera Farmiga's standing in their office, and there's that painting in front of her, and you just see that shadow slowly walking across the wall, I'm like, no, I don't like where this is going. And like that's a slow-moving shadow, but you know exactly where it's going, and it hits the painting, and the clawed hands start coming around the frame. You're just like, no. And it just comes at him like, I saw that, I knew this was coming, and it still got me.
Alright, so we can watch The Conjuring together. Okay, I know I can get you to watch The Conjuring. My goal is to make him watch some, like, really hair-curling horror movies.
I was disappointed about how not scary The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It was, because the first two scared the shit out of me.
But those movies are more about the lore.
Well, they're definitely getting to that point. Yeah. And the third one definitely felt more like a detective story kind of thing, which I respected them doing that. Because, honestly, if you throw Ed and Lorraine in anything, I'm going to watch it. Because I love Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga.
Dude, I remember the first time I watched The Conjuring was then later on, I was just watching, like, reruns on Travel Channel. And then they had that Ghost Adventures episode. They literally said The Conjuring House, and I'm just like, oh my god. I'm like pouring salt around, like I thought something bad was gonna happen. I'm pouring salt around my house.
Salt circles. For every occasion. Oh man, and then the dumbass who put the salt circle down kicks the salt.
Yeah,
you're just like,
that's the simple thing.
You literally put it there.
I mean,
you didn't look down.
Every time, like you see those horror movies, like don't go out of the circle. As soon as that's said, guarantee 30 seconds later, somebody's going out of the circle.
But that was a good question. I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed this a lot. Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on, Tyler.
Thanks, man. This was really fun.
But thank you, Tyler, for coming on, and thank all of you out there for always supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.
Have a good night.